But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. People gotta forget to this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, home of the last JabroniCon. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And how is everybody doing today? I was looking around for some stuff to look at tonight, and it occurred to me, because I've been sort of following this whole, the Young Turfs, thing, and so I was just kind of looking for any more commentary on that, and then I found actually some videos where we can actually get it straight from the horse's ass. Cenk Uygur. We've got his full speech, that whole bed-shitting thing where he, basically sucked up, gave a wonderful foot massage to Charlie Kirk over at Toilet Paper USA, and an interview he gave actually about a month ago on how the left eats itself. And I thought either one of those might be quite nice. I think we might start out with how the left continues to eat itself.
Who is more credible, the cast of The View or a dragon?
Okay. A weird start.
These days, apparently a dragon. As you know, Joy Behar said that, you can't trust Joe Rogan, he believes in dragons. Oh, well, Joy Behar believed that Joe Biden was young and dynamic.
Is his point that Joe Rogan is more credible? Because Joy Behar is clearly full of shit? Is that where he's gonna go with this?
That he had no cognitive difficulties at all, and that he was the best possible candidate for the Democrats. I can't find anything less credible than that.
Why?
Yeah, but it isn't an either or. They can both be full of shit. Like, are these the two poles now? You can either choose like Joyce Behar or Joe Rogan?
Why are these people so out of touch? Like, is it purposeful or is it ignorance?
Oh, it's definitely ignorance. And so, Chris, this is really interesting because I am bilingual. I speak both populist and establishment.
Oh God! He speaks populist. Well, it's really nice. We got a Fash English interpreter here.
And that's because I worked at MSNBC as a host. I worked at Current TV. I went to some of the same schools that these folks went to. And so I mainly come from their world, but I'm a natural-born populist. And so
what the fuck does that mean? See, again, I keep on saying this because it keeps on being true. This word needs to fucking die. Anytime you hear this word, anytime somebody's using this word, they are trying to sell you a line of shit.
Me 2,000 times over before I even got to the right wing, right? And so, but I know how they think. And they're in their own bubble. Everybody's in their own bubble. And so in their bubble, they're right about everything.
Everyone's in their own bubble except Cenk. Hello,
They're
Riveroon.
objective, right? And they truly believe that, right? And so anyone who disagrees with them, they think is not objective and is to be dismissed and derided and insulted, etc. And so they have no idea how clueless they are. And they
Like, okay, I mean, I have to say, he's not wrong on this bit. Yes, the establishment, one of the things that has really been striking about, like, sort of the, just, political class and the capitalist class as a whole in the past few years is how they act as if everything is just business as usual, as everything is fucking falling apart, and then when people notice it, they pretend that they're not, and think that, like, fucking ham-handed fucking propaganda is going to solve the problem. Bullswire.
they're not coming at it from bad intent, which a lot of people won't believe, right? But they actually, they genuinely
Well, how are we defining bad intent, though?
have the best of intent. And if you just listen to the establishment one more time, boy, then they'll
Motherfucker, are you saying you're not the establishment, though?
really deliver.
I mean, with a pedigree that starts, as he pointed out, like MSNBC, the best schools, all this shit. Like,
Right? And if you cheer for them louder, they'll really deliver. And I swear to God, they genuinely believe it.
Are they well read? Because it seems to me,
how are we
in order
defining
to be able
that?
to have that level of self-belief, you need to really know what you're talking about. And I'm yet to see much evidence that that's the case.
No, that's
Well, that's on the assumption that the problem is incompetence. And on some things, I would imagine the problem is incompetence. But there's also definitely an issue of them having simply different priorities than most people. And there's also a certain amount of malice, and there's also, yeah.
It's the other amazing part. They're actually really well educated, really well read. But since the bubbles are so strong and thick,
They're
still,
thick
it's
bubbles.
like asking
My bubble is a chunky boy.
a fish, how's the water? And the fish says, what water? Right? So what they don't understand, this is the crux of what they don't understand, is that the establishment is built to preserve the status of the top 10%.
I think they understand that. I think that if you are pretending that they're not, if you try to say that they're not aware of it, then lots of things cease to make sense. Because when it comes to, like, what they actually do, and their metrics for success and things like that, all of that only works if you assume that the goal is to make the top 10% of the population, if you make capitalists better off.
And then, most importantly, the top 1%, and then the top 0.1%, right? And since it's built on that, and almost all of the people in the establishment are at a minimum in the top 10%, at least in terms of socioeconomic.
What the fuck is the establishment, though? Like, could you define that?
Status. And they grew up, most of them, not all of them, but most of them grew up in that context. When Joe Biden provides about 5 to 10%, or Barack Obama provides 5 to 10% change, they think,
oh, here he goes with these weird-ass percentages again. Remember, the last time it was like 5% disagreement and stuff like that, and it's like, what the hell is 5 to 10% change? First of all, change does not automatically mean improvement. Like, yeah, like Biden changed things. Like, he changed how the U.S. had previously had a certain amount of restraint when it came to murdering Palestinians, and now the U.S. has no restraint at all. I mean, that's change. I'd say it's a pretty significant change. It's not good, though.
oh my God, this is amazing. My life was already great, and these saints have given me 5% extra positive change in their minds, right? Or 10%.
Like, this is so meaningless, though. Why can't you give, like, examples? It's like, it's not even that I think he's wrong on this. Because I do think that this is precisely... I mean, I think he's not wrong that the ruling class thinks like this. And the people whose main job is to do propaganda for the ruling class also think like this. And if they don't think like that, or they stop thinking like that, they won't be in that job for long. But this whole thing where he never uses like any concrete example. It's just these completely meaningless fucking percentages.
Positive change. How could anyone complain? You guys are nuts. What I'm trying to get them to see is no, brothers and sisters. But for the rest of the country,
they don't care.
60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck.
Like, why do you think they give a shit? Like, I mean, this reminds me of, like, what Chomsky said. Somebody had, like, talked to him, referred to the idea of speaking truth to power, and he said he didn't really like the concept. Leaving aside the idea that you have the truth, which is kind of arrogant. The idea that power doesn't know the truth, he said. Like, that they just don't understand that what they're doing is screwing over a large number of people and making the planet uninhabitable, and most people hate them on a certain level. That it's not that they don't know that stuff. They know it. They're cool with it. They're not ignorant. Wow, this freeze frame makes him kind of look like a Cabbage Patch Kid. Like a really annoying one.
5% change ain't gonna get it done. They need 50 to 100% change. And
what the fuck is 100% change? Like 100% of what exactly? Like what's the? This is such a grifty thing to do, because people can go, oh, 100% change. That's huge. That's huge. And anyone can decide what that means. Like, does 100% change mean we fundamentally change the entire social and economic system? Is that what the 100% is of? Like, what the fuck is that?
You're not getting it, because you just don't
talk
to folks like that, and you're not in that context. And when I say that, they think I'm the biggest radical ever. And by the way,
he loves that. He absolutely fucking loves that. That's why he likes to hang out with reactionaries too.
Of course.
Because when he talks to reactionaries, it's like, wow, this guy's a dangerous communist radical and stuff like that, and he can be like, yeah, I'm pretty cool. But when he like talks with leftists, when he engages or even sees what leftists have to say about him, yeah, it's like, yeah, this guy's just a fucking shill for the Democrats. Yeah.
Of course, the new theory is, that's it. I've done the pivot, and I'm a right winger, and I've abandoned all my policies, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. No.
When he's only abandoned 5%. Ooh, baguettes and pretzels. Like the soft, fresh pretzels, those. I love those. I miss there was a place at the Central Station in Munich, where I lived very briefly, like nearly 30 years ago. And I would, when I had a bit of money, I'd grab myself a couple of their like fresh pretzels with the spicy mustard that they had. Oh God, I love that stuff.
Oh, I've been saying the same thing for 20 straight years.
Oh, you're not taking a hard turn to the right?
No.
I mean, it's really easy to do this when you don't give any concrete examples.
So, and here's another thing. I talked about this on Lex's show, and I talk about it in my book, Justice is Coming. And whenever we can have an actual conversation, I want people to get this through their heads. I just wrote a piece right before the election for Newsweek about it. There's two political spectrums. There's the left-right spectrum, but there's the one that nobody talks about, the populist versus establishment spectrum.
Well, yeah, the reason nobody talks about that is because it's literally the same thing. Except that this is just a cute way of obfuscating what you're doing. Because, yes, I mean, if we take the left-right spectrum at all seriously, the left end of it is for the ruthless criticism and abolition of all that exists. And the right end of it is very much preserving the status quo, or maybe turning back the clock on a few, working class, gains by the working class and by marginalized people, etc. I mean, the idea is in here. The only reason you want to, anyone ever wants to say, oh no, we gotta abandon the left-right paradigm or whatever, is because they are moving to the right.
So I am populist left. So you will see me have left-wing positions on many, many issues, the great majority of issues.
Such as?
But I also have a populist position.
Wait, you have a populist left position, but also a populist position? And note, he hasn't given an example yet what these positions even are. And this interviewer is not helping, is not helping him to, not encouraging him, let's say, to actually be specific.
So that's what discombobulates them. They're like, no, if you're on the left, you have to be pro-establishment. I'm like, no.
Who the fuck says that? Like, who, I'd love to find, give us an example. Who is it who's saying if you're on the left, you have to be pro-establishment? Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
No, that doesn't make any sense at all. The left historically was not pro-establishment.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's complete bullshit, which is why you're not giving us any examples. And this Chris Williamson, whoever the hell this is, he doesn't look like the Chris Williamson MP I'm familiar with.
Turned him that into pro-establishment through all the corporate donations, etc., etc. So that's why people are confused.
Yeah, what...
People are confused, that's the problem.
Defending the people who have the most money, defending the people that have the most power, defending the people who are the most educated, seems to be turning the entire bar stool upside down compared with what traditionally were the values of the left, right? Working class, on class lines.
Okay, I mean, something that Cenk has never really been into.
Really, that much else. Is it salvageable? Is it possible to try and bring this back around?
Yeah,
bring it back around to what?
100%. So look, first of all, Bernie almost won in 2016 and 2020. I mean,
oh yeah, he almost won. If there had been a totally different, like, if there had been free and fair primaries, where everybody cast a vote on the same day, and everybody was voting for the same slate of candidates, and you couldn't have this bullshit where people can just give their votes to somebody else after they've already been cast. Yeah, Bernie totally would have won. But he wasn't in it to win it. He was never going to win.
He lost by, the skin of his teeth. And that's only after the entire establishment coalesced and ganged up on him. And not just the politicians around.
Like, he's not even going to talk about just how completely bent Democratic Party primaries are. I'm not saying Republican primaries aren't. Although it'd actually be a little bit surprised if they had to be as bad, because there isn't this complete disconnect between donors and voters on the Republican side of things. But, I mean, if he acknowledges that the reality is that it would be impossible for anyone who doesn't have the support of the leadership to win these primaries because they are designed that way. Like, I'm not talking about some, like, backroom shit. I'm talking about, like, their openly acknowledged rules mean that the leadership's candidate will always win, one way or another. It's just designed to do that. But if he acknowledges that, then he's saying there's absolutely no point to waste time with the Democrats, and he's a Democrat. He's never going to do that because he's a shill for the Democrats.
Rallying around Joe Biden in 2020, but all of mainstream media, most importantly MSNBC, they all said, "Oh, Bernie's a Nazi. He's going to execute people in Central Park, etc., etc." Which, who else did they call a Nazi? Oh, right, Donald Trump.
Okay. I do not remember anyone in the media calling Bernie Sanders a Nazi, and that wasn't the problem in 2020 in the 2020 primary. Bernie Sanders was leading the thing. Biden was way down. He was a total also ran. Harris wasn't even in it. She dropped out before the first primary, before the Iowa primary. That's how well she did. The only reason Sanders didn't get the nomination in 2020 is that the three runners-up all dropped out, handed their votes to Biden, and it took like three whole candidates handing their votes over to Biden to put him on top. that's how bad Biden was doing. That's how fucking unpopular Biden was. It wasn't that people were convinced by propaganda not to vote for Sanders. It's that the entire way that these primaries are conducted ensure that the leadership's candidate will always win, no matter how unpopular they are.
So anytime anybody's an outsider, now I have massive.
And also, like, I love the idea. First of all, I don't remember anyone calling Sanders a Nazi. On the other hand, Trump hangs out with literal neo-Nazis all the time. But we're supposed to pretend that doesn't matter now, because Cenk would have a lot more questions he would have to answer if he openly acknowledged that he was palling around with people who hang out, who are at the very least happy to work with neo-Nazis.
The problems with Donald Trump, and I think that what he did in 2020 was unacceptable and un-American. So we can go back if you want and discuss and debate that. But
wait a second. What was un-American? He's talking about the Keystone coup of 6 January, I guess. But what's un-American about that? I mean, the U.S. does that all sorts of places. I mean, I guess the fact that they were so incompetent.
He is trying to be a populist in his own way. I think it's a little fake. We can again debate and discuss that. But
well, yeah, I mean, but we really can't, because you are not defining what that even means. It is impossible to discuss this unless you're actually, like, specifying what that even is, which he never does.
Going in that direction. And Bernie is clearly a populist. And that is why the establishment hates both of them. But remember, they barely...
The establishment doesn't hate Bernie Sanders that much. Like, he got a really important committee membership. He basically runs unopposed for his seat. And he's able to do that because the Democrats don't actually seriously run any candidate against him, and the Republicans have no chance. That sounds a little bit like the Democrats are kind of cool with him, as long as he sticks to the deal and doesn't rock the boat too much.
Bernie 2 times. So it won't be Bernie again, he's too old. But next...
is there such a thing anymore? I mean, is too old even a thing in U.S. politics? Next thing you know, they'll be like digging up fucking FDR. We'll have like the first dead presidential candidate. And it'll be like, yeah.
Time around, if we have an actual populist in the Democratic primary, we can recapture the party in the way that Trump has captured the Republican Party. And if we don't, we're doomed. That establishment can't win elections. They're too fake, they're too phony.
They're both fake and phony.
The donor class too much. They're too elite.
Like, but I mean, okay, yeah. I mean, all this stuff is true when he talks, but he wants to make it look like he wants to act like there's like no reason for this other than that they just don't understand why it would be such a good idea to actually do things that most people would like they don't look at the polls. Like, they don't have people whose entire job is to follow the polls to know, for example, that they would basically shut out the Republicans completely if they just got, health insurance companies out of people's lives and created a healthcare system where you could just go to the fucking doctor. Like, I mean, they know this. They know all of this. They're not, like, ignorant. They know all these things. They just don't want to do them because they work for this system.
And nobody's interested in that bullshit.
You asked Elon Musk to put you in charge of cutting the Pentagon. How'd that go?
How is it going to go?
It's official. I'm now running the entire Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he even just says that as a joke makes it so obvious. He knows what a ridiculous thing this is. He knows that they're never going to... First of all, I mean, the thing is, though, he's going to pretend they're not racist because he doesn't want to acknowledge that he's going with he's trying to suck up to a bunch of white supremacists, but, like, they're not going to like him. He could be totally on side with them. They would still be giving him all kinds of side-eye because his name is Cenk Uygur.
That's how it works. No, look, I thought it went great, and but
Of course you did.
the left doesn't think it went great. So
Well, because it was a bad idea, you dickhead. Like, well, who's the left, by the way? Who's the left? I mean, and what's the definition of going well? Like, I mean, surely going well in this context would be actually getting... getting the thing right. I mean, getting the position that you were trying to get. But you're not going to. So, like, why?
So let me explain. So Elon says I want to cut $2 trillion from the budget. In reality, there isn't $2 trillion to cut. All discretionary spending is only $1.7 trillion. But there is one place where you could have massive.
Bueno, lo que pasa es que hay muchos otros que han comentado muy fundadamente las manifestaciones estadounidenses contra el gobierno venezolano. Yo no sé si tenga algo que agregarle a esto. Bueno, pero, y además, bueno, tengo un listado de weas que, de video que hacer más largo que la cresta. Y bueno, es una cuestión bastante fácil, porque se trata de fascistas contra el gobierno. El gobierno es una mierda. Maduro lo está cagando, pero igual los nazis son nazis.
Savings, and that's the Pentagon. And that's because they never pass an audit. This is their 7th straight audit that they failed. And they say that they generally can't account for half the money, which is over $400 billion. So I said on X, hey, Elon, put me in charge of the Pentagon.
And he's even calling it X now. Wow, what a fucking suck up.
I'll cut $400 billion overnight. And hey, all of a sudden you're 20% of the way home to your goal.
Yeah, except he's not gonna do that. That's like, do you seriously? The question is, see, that would be, there are two possibilities here. One is that he's doing this to troll Musk, because he knows that motherfucker wants. I mean, Musk is one of the beneficiaries of that Pentagon budget. I mean, all those fucking billionaires are beneficiaries. Like all the tech billionaires wouldn't be shit if it weren't for Pentagon subsidies, usually through DARPA. But I mean, like Musk knows that. I mean, Musk is heavily subsidized by NASA, for example. So, I mean, the realistic thing would be that, if you were at all sensible, you would be like, acknowledge that he was trolling him, because obviously Musk isn't going to do that shit. Because Musk doesn't want to do that shit. But I have a feeling that he might have convinced himself that Musk actually is serious about this.
Right? And he said, give me suggestions. So let's pause there.
Oh, wow. He answered his tweet.
Democratic leader has ever asked me for suggestions, even though I run the largest left-wing media network in the country. They've never asked why.
Well, wow. Well, maybe that's because they've already got you in their pocket, and Elon Musk wants you in his pocket. So Elon Musk is going to be nice to you because he knows that you're a cheap date.
Populist. What would a populist know?
Who knows? You haven't even told us what a fucking populist is, according to you.
He doesn't even support the donors. Terrible. We're never going to ask him, right? So Elon asked. Already, that's progress. That's
wow. That's progress. Elon Musk replied to his tweet. He's probably just happy to get a reply that isn't get fucked.
Already better than what I was getting from the other side. And so then the left goes, no, don't say that. Okay, but what do you want me to do? Lie?
I mean, maybe not lie to yourself.
Do you want me to tell you that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden call me every other day like, oh, we're really interested in what populist left thinks. Oh, we're super interested in what our base wants.
That isn't what, but that he didn't do that. That's... fucking Elon Musk didn't do that. He just replied to a tweet and said, "What are your suggestions?" That doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything.
They're not at all interested in what their base wants. They pretty much hate what their base wants.
Well, yeah, they do. They absolutely do. And the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans on this is that they have a different base. And the Republicans' base actually wants the things that their donors want. They want more racism. They want to screw over the working class because actually Republican voters are economically way better off.
So that's great. And then I gave him a suggestion, which was, hey, listen, if you want to cut in a real way, you'd have to, of course, do it line by line. So if you bring me in, and we both went to Wharton, we both run businesses.
This guy's not establishment. He went to the fucking Wharton Business School, for fuck's sake.
Are of course much larger, but hey, I run a top 10 media network in the country. So both.
No, yeah. So like both of you are eminently qualified to just be like cutting.
Both of us know how we can go line by line and cut things that are actually wasteful, inefficient, and. By the way, some of it is just corruption. Just massive pork barrel spending. Okay, but...
So his suggestion was, give me a job.
For now, I can give you a suggestion of stop having the generals work for defense contractors. Because the minute they retire, they go work for the military-industrial complex. And since they're going to get millions of dollars...
Fucking Elon Musk works for the military-industrial complex, too. He and Bezos and fucking Zuckerberg and the rest of those pricks are the military-industrial complex.
From those guys, what do they do before they retire? They give those same companies billions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars in contracts.
What? And you think that if they don't, if the revolving door is closed and they're no longer working for, they no longer immediately go over to work for arms contractors. What? Yeah, they're not going to be buying weapon systems from the only companies, like the handful of companies that make that shit? Like, what's the thinking here?
That's an obvious, massive conflict of interest that any business person would understand, anyone with common sense would understand. And so then Don Jr. drummed.
What's your... Okay. But Elon Musk, you're saying that you think Elon Musk is someone with common sense. You're right.
Jumped in and he said that's a good idea and we're already discussing it. Great. Okay.
God, he is so easy. God, you look at why fucking sort of left-leaning liberals are so easy to win over to the Democrats with absolutely zero concessions a lot of the time. Just look at who he's just the model of it. He is such the mother. All he's had is a couple of tweets saying, "Ooh, that seems good," patting him on the head. And already it's like, holy shit, Elon Musk and Donald Trump Jr. love me. Motherfucker. That's not how any of that works.
Okay, so
you've got Elon certifying, and you've got the son of Trump stepping in as well.
That's right.
Yeah, the level of... the level of just indignity here. Like, prostrating himself before these two scumbags. This is so pathetic.
Hey, and then Donald Trump Jr. came back in and said, again, hey, this is just common sense, and we should be going in that direction. So now if the left wants to complain... it's if they do it, because they haven't done it yet.
They haven't done it yet. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it because both of them profit heavily from the way things are right now.
If Elon and Trump and etc. cut the Pentagon or do a great rule about conflict of interest for the generals that the left has wanted for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If they complain, they did the thing we want.
Wait a second. Maybe I'm missing something. But is that been what the left has been demanding of the Pentagon for 40 years? Like, to just, stop generals going to work for arms contractors? Is it really? Is that the thing? Because I don't remember that ever being the main discussion. I thought it had something to do with maybe stop invading other people's countries and murdering them and stealing their shit.
Wanted. I got it, then I can't help you. Right?
Yeah,
if you can't take the win, I can't help you.
It's what win? What win? There is no win. Like, we're supposed to take the fact that these two assholes patted this other smaller asshole on the head as like some sort of a win.
And a lot of the time that purity is more important than victory.
What victory though? There is like what victory?
Oh, 100%. And unfortunately, that's one of the defining hallmarks of the modern left that I'm rebelling against. And so, what? And look, I know. So both sides again misunderstand each other. And
we just misunderstand Nazis.
And again, I'm bilingual. I used to be a Republican. I'm a progressive populist.
Ooh.
I've been in both camps. I understand both camps.
What were the overheard words by the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom?
And I speak both their languages, but they do not speak each other's language. So
yeah. So the reason, so when they say that they like it when cops torture and murder marginalized people, and they want to take away basic human rights from trans people and stuff like that, well, they're not actually saying those things. We need a translator. So maybe you could translate for us, Cenk, because it's all about them. It's a big misunderstanding. The Nazis are okay.
Left thinks, oh, it's all a trick, right?
Because it is. You fucking drongo.
And there's good, valid reasons for thinking.
Yeah, because it is.
Okay? But they think, oh, everyone on the right is a fraud, and that is not true.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, the ones who aren't frauds, the ones who genuinely believe the horrible things they say, that's not better. Like, somebody being a fucking sincere white supremacist, a sincere fucking fascist, is not somehow better than somebody who just pretends to be. If anything, if I'm choosing between somebody who is sincere about that stuff and somebody who's just an opportunist and is doing it because that is a useful demographic that they're milking for support, and they're going to abandon them, I mean, I would tend to choose the fake ones if I had to choose, which fortunately one does not. But the idea that the sincere ones are better? Really?
And they think, okay, if the minute you agree with them, they're not going to actually do that thing.
They're not, though.
Instead, they're going to use it to cut Medicare, Medicaid, all these other programs that
yes, as they've said they're going to do.
We care about, and they're never going to actually do the thing that they said.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or they will do it in a very symbolic way, because they know that it is really, really easy to get Cenk to be like, "Oh wow, look, see what great people they are," and confuse liberals. And then they will just go and do all the things that he said, like that he just listed, which are things that they've specifically said they want to do.
Now, maybe that's true, and if that's true, well, okay, then I'll call him out on it. Problem.
Well, you could call him out on it now, Cenk.
Solved, right? It's not like I'm going to go, oh, okay, they promised it, so I will let them cut all the programs that I care about.
What do you mean, let them? How are you going to stop them?
And I will not say anything. No, man, if anyone hasn't learned yet, I
mean, this is so pathetic.
Uncontrollable.
You are so easy to control. These two motherfuckers did nothing. He got nothing. They got no commitment from either of these ghouls. They just patted him on the head on Twitter, and he's talking about what great people they are. He is so fucking easy to control.
Okay, so you're not going to control me from the left or the right, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
Of course not.
If they do stuff I don't agree with, I'm going to not only call it out, I'm probably going to yell at them, right? But if they say yes and then they do it, I am going, unlike everyone on the left, I'm going to take the fucking win.
But that isn't a real win, though. Like, it's like, I don't give a shit if the imperialist genocide department is less corrupt. You know, I don't care if they're less corrupt. This is like, I mean, this reminds me of one of the big sort of scandals, internal SS scandals that happened at Auschwitz. Because you see, you know, they were taking off huge amounts of stuff, valuables, off of the people who showed up every day in the trains to be murdered. And SS officers were taking the best of it for themselves, which was illegal. And so, eventually, an auditor was sent in, looked into this, and put them on trial, and put an end to that shit, because they made an example of some people. So, I mean, it didn't end entirely, but they had to be way more careful after that. So that's a less corrupt genocide machine. Wow, isn't that great? It's a less corrupt genocide machine. Like, who gives a shit? It's still a genocide machine.
Right? I don't think that part is complicated at all.
You've been talking a lot about something that I've been fascinated around the last few years, which is the intolerance of dissent.
Oh, yes.
From within the left. There's hypersensitivity around that. How frustrating is that to try and navigate?
Oh, God, I mean, this is just like... He's just getting the level of upsucking going on here. He's giving him all the hard questions. Wow, isn't it so hard? You must have it really, really rough. You know, like, no follow-up question like, but, you know, they didn't commit to do anything. Do you think that maybe you're being kind of a really fucking cheap date?
Yeah, but, okay, so that is super frustrating. And there's an extra layer of it for me. But I also want to...
An extra layer? Oh, he's got an extra layer.
Talk about the right...
So it's like sort of a stuffed pizza of leftists annoying him.
A little bit, too, in a second. So, on the left, there's the thesis that if you agree with the right, even 1%, they will abuse it.
Oh, here we go with the fucking percentages again.
So never agree with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it isn't just a theory. There's a history of this. The far right goes after little fucking dickheads like Cenk, who, you know, will, like, be the fucking pick me and try to reach across the aisle and all this shit. And find naive sort of left-leaning liberals and say, hey, look, we both kind of want the same thing. Why don't we work together? And before you can blink, suddenly your organization that was for, I don't know, a higher minimum wage or better environmental controls or less evictions or whatever the fuck is full of Nazis. This is a standard strategy that they've followed a long time.
Okay, yeah, but that's going to lead to very unproductive conversations.
Why? What unproductive conversations? Yeah, a random percentage doesn't tell me anything. Yeah, because it's like, he won't say what issues he's agreeing with them on. Because if he says what issues he's agreeing with, because percentages don't even make sense in this context. Because the issue isn't, like, let's say you had a whole list of positions, right? Numbered. A numbered list of positions. And somebody agreed with 100% of that list of positions, but they also added they want to bring back slavery. So that's less than 1% disagreement. They agree on all these things, right? It's less than 1% disagreement. But they want to bring. But the thing is, the thing where the disagreement is kind of important. It's kind of a fundamental. It's a kind of a fundamental issue, actually. So the percentage doesn't mean anything.
Right. And then there's also the thesis of, if you're not at the most extreme maximalist position, your strategy is wrong. We should always defend the craziest shit our side has ever
Like what? Like what?
come up with in human history.
But I mean, like, let me see. This guy went to Wharton. He also went to law school. He knows a thing or two about negotiation. So he knows that actually when you're in a negotiation, I'm sure he's aware of this. You don't talk yourself down. I mean, in this case, it isn't so much a way of avoiding talking about class. It's a way of avoiding talking about the substance of the disagreements. He wants to use these percentages. We disagree on 5% of issues or something like that, because he doesn't want to say that what he disagrees with them on, what he disagrees with the left on, is that the left says that trans people should not have their human rights stripped away. This is a different percentage. This isn't like the 1%. This is, he's saying, disagreements with 5% on 5% of issues. But he won't say what issues, because if he says that, he'll end up looking like shit. Like, when you negotiate, you do not talk. If you talk yourself down, if you ask for less than the maximum, like less than what you can live with, then you're always going to be talked down from what you came in from. Whatever your starting position, you're always going to be talked down from it. So you do not talk yourself down, or you're going to end up getting something that is useless. That is like negotiation 101. But he's acting like this is wild. Like,
I don't agree. I think that's a terrible strategy.
Well, like, give an example, though.
And that's how we wound up at defund the police. That's how we wound up with transgender, undocumented immigrants getting free service.
No, that is not how we wound up with that. How we wound up with that, and again, he's okay. He has been to law school. He knows a thing or two about the Eighth Amendment, one imagines. The reason that incarcerated trans people are entitled to health care is that the courts have actually held that it is a violation of the Eighth Amendment to deny it to them.
Surgery, blah, 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 blah. I told him.
Like, okay, so the two things he comes up with is the extremely popular position that that the police need to be just fundamentally overhauled. Like 80% agree with that. I mean, defunding the police was actually a very popular, this is from a few months ago, so I can't, he didn't have this at this time. But, if you look at the fires in LA, one thing to know is Karen Bass defunded the fire department there and handed the money to cops.
That is 98% of Americans are not going to be in favor of that. You are just flat out wrong.
See, the other dishonest thing he does in the case of incarcerated trans people having access to health care. And this is a particular bullshit strategy that bigots have been using. In Britain, it was used as well around the Gender Recognition Act and everything. But you act like a thing that is actually the status quo. Like incarcerated trans people having the legal right to get health care while they're incarcerated. That is the status quo. Like, fucking Kamala Harris went to court to try to change that when she was AG in California, and she lost, fucking thankfully. But the way he presents it as if it's a demand. As if it's like this wild fucking demand, this maximalist demand. No, this is literally the status quo. This is literally what the courts have said that the prisons have to allow, including the concentration camps, that they are required to provide these things. Like in Britain, around when they were first having when self-ID in the Gender Recognition Act was being discussed, suddenly you had the TERFs come out and say, well, no, but that will mean they'll be able to go to public toilets and stuff. And it was a lie because the Gender Recognition Act has nothing to do with access to public toilets. That's the Equality Act. And the bigger lie was the idea that this is a new thing, as opposed to the fact that trans people have been, using public toilets, gender appropriate public toilets, and changing rooms and whatever for, decades, and have had the legal right to do it since 2010, explicitly under the Equality Act. But if you acknowledge that, it's the status quo and that you're trying to strip away a right that marginalized people have, there's really no way to avoid that you're the asshole at that point. Then you're talking like the Nuremberg laws. You're stripping away something that a marginalized group already has. So they act like it's some sort of like radical demand.
And so if you tell someone on the left they're wrong, they get...
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, surely the idea is that we should be arguing and convincing people that what we stand for is right, rather than just be, this cowardly thing where you just sort of say, well, we'll just go with whatever the majority of people already say.
So hurt by that. They
jump. Well, yeah, because it's torture. You're talking about taking away healthcare from trans people in prison, a place where they're already being tortured.
They cannot stomach that. And one thing I'll give the right credit for is there's way more debate, right?
Yeah, they debate about whether the Holocaust didn't happen or whether it did and it was a good thing. Whether slavery should be old style or whether there's a new high-tech version that could work even better. They do have debates. The left has debates too, you dickhead. I mean, the difference is, what he's talking about is literally debates on the left. Leftists are disagreeing with him. So supposedly, because leftists are disagreeing with him, that means there's no debate on the left. Unlike the right, where people disagree with each other.
In the old days, as in first Trump term, there was no debate. Daddy Trump says it.
That's not true, actually. That's bullshit. In fact, you had Fash protesting against Trump when he went and bombed Syria.
Everyone does it. Period. Okay? And the right wing also has this massive intolerance, right?
Wow, yeah. You think? You're saying that white supremacists might be a bit intolerant?
Tolerance for anyone on the left's opinion, generally speaking, although now...
And also, intolerance for anyone whose complexion they don't like, anyone who isn't, cis, het, white.
We're building some bridges, but also intolerance for, I don't like that lifestyle. So
what lifestyle? He means they don't like gay people. They don't like LGBT people.
So that lifestyle is bad.
What lifestyle, Cenk?
Hey, brothers and sisters, did you mean freedom or do you not mean freedom?
They don't mean freedom. They literally don't mean freedom. Are you the only? Are you the last person to realize that they don't mean freedom? At the most, they mean freedom for themselves. That's the only freedom they want. They want the freedom to do whatever they want to everyone they don't like. That's all they've ever wanted, you fucking drongo.
If you mean freedom, let anybody do any fucking lifestyle they like.
Well, you think somebody hasn't put this to them?
This is your business.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is so... He's acting like nobody ever suggested this to them. This isn't a thing that gets put to them in, online debates all the time. And very clearly, no, they don't mean freedom. At least not freedom for a whole lot of people.
Right? So, but again, I think these times are different. I think Trump 2.0, and I might be naive, and I might be...
You are.
When I grant that to my friends on the left. But I sense an
what
actual
friends?
Right-wing populist movement that
which is another way of saying fascist.
Might even push back against Trump. So, and I think the first place...
Yeah, and the only example he's ever come up with this is one where Trump's position sucks shit, but the fascists who disagree with them have an even worse position. Because Trump wants indentured servitude in the form of H-1B visas. These motherfuckers, they just want mass deportation. That's the kind of disagreement he's talking about. In fact, he gave that example, and it's like, what about this is encouraging to you, Cenk?
Is that pushback's probably going to come is Israel? But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm.
You're wrong. If that pushback were coming, it already would have come. Like, most of his suckholes are also pro-Israel because they also want to see Palestinians die.
And maybe you guys will all just say, Daddy, I don't mean Chris, I mean right-wing populists. We'll just go, no, Daddy Trump, whatever Daddy Trump says we want, right? We'll see, we'll find out.
Like, what if it turns out the reason they support him is because he proposes to do things that they like?
Think that you're closer to right-wing populists or left-wing establishment people?
What the hell are left-wing establishment people?
It depends on how you would define it, right?
Yeah, and you're the one who has avoided defining any of this. So maybe give us some definitions. Tell us what the fuck you mean.
If I say right-wing populist, people will then say, well, right-wing populists, some right-wing populists believe X, Y, and Z.
Oh, yeah, some.
And those X, Y, and Z positions are awful, and I would never agree to them, right?
Well, why don't you give examples again? Why is it always this position X, Y, and Z bullshit?
But if I say left-wing establishment,
whatever the hell that is,
they believe a whole bunch of that I don't agree with, right?
Yeah.
So, and what I want
so the one time this guy asks a question that could help to actually elicit some sort of specification of what the hell he's talking about, that could require him to get a little bit concrete about what he likes about the fash and everything, he dodges artfully. Yes, he very clearly did go to law school.
Everybody to understand, and both on the left and the right, is maybe we are individual human beings, and we are not born with an ideology that fits pre-existing buckets.
So what?
So there's this bucket of left-wing ideology and a bucket of right-wing ideology.
We've gone from percentages to buckets. Could I get like a bucket to puke in?
And those are all on different issues: foreign policy, domestic policies.
Like, can you give an example?
Spending, social issues, etc. And they say, no, this was said 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 20 years ago. You have to agree with every position on the left or every.
Like what?
Every position on the right.
Well, like what? Like what? Give a fucking example.
Why? My number one question to Americans is why? Why do I have to agree to a preset ideology? Why don't I say, hey, you know what? I like that on the left. I like that on the right.
Like, why don't you just like actually say what it is you like in both cases?
I like that in the middle, and that's because I'm a human being. I'm an individual. I'm an American. And so stop listening to your leaders telling you what you have to.
Stop listening to your leaders, says a guy who claims to be your leader.
To believe. And especially for right-wing populists that think, and often do, but think that they cherish freedom.
I haven't, have you heard anything about him running out of money? That's the first I've heard of it. It wouldn't surprise me if he's realized that this is a good financial move for him. That would not surprise me at all, but I've not heard anything about them running out of money. It would actually kind of surprise me.
If you do, brothers and sisters,
if anything, I have a feeling that what could lead to them running out of money is this bullshit.
Have to prove it, not just by cherishing your own freedom, but by cherishing other people's freedoms too.
It's interesting to think about the way that the incentives align. You know, I had Anna on the show a couple of weeks ago, really interesting conversation for her too, and I asked her the question, can you see the incentives and the dynamics that cause people to go from left to right? Because I don't see very many people going from right to left.
Oh, yeah, and that's very easy. In fact, Norman Finkelstein, who I'm not a fan of, but he's occasionally been very right about things. He pointed this out when he wrote a thing years ago about Christopher Hitchens. Let me see if I can find the article. Norman Finkelstein, Christopher Hitchens. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. I'm going to drop this link into chat. That would not surprise me. I hadn't heard it, but yeah. Here he says, depending on where along the political spectrum power is situated, apostates almost always make their corrective leap in that direction, discovering the virtues of the status quo. Quote, the last thing you can be accused of is having turned your coat, end quote, Thomas Mann wrote to a convert to National Socialism right after Hitler's seizure of power. Quote, you always wore it the right way round, end quote. If apostasy weren't conditioned by power considerations, one would anticipate roughly equal movements in both directions. But that's never been the case. The would-be apostate almost always pulls towards power's magnetic field, rarely away. However elaborate the testimonials on how one came to see the light, the impetus behind political apostasy is, pardon my cynicism, a fairly straightforward, uncomplicated affair, to cash in or keep cashing in on earthly pleasures. I mean, it is so easy to see why that... I mean, this is not a complicated thing. There's a reason why... It makes sense why media people will move to the right. It's because there's shitloads of money there. There is like a pre-made. You have this like, yeah. They have an audience like a pre-manufactured audience that they will drive to you. You will get all kinds of algorithmic boosting. You know, they will make you. Their like universe is way smaller. And it is full of people who have no talent and no redeeming qualities. So bringing somebody new in is something they're going to celebrate, and they're going to lavish you. They're going to love bomb you. You know, pat you on the head like fucking Donald Trump Jr. and Elon Musk did to fucking Cenk.
And I think that it's because of this sort of puritanical purity nature that you wouldn't be accepted with open arms. And it does seem like until the left is prepared to let go of this incredibly high bar, the maximizing number that you said, it can't be 98%, can't be 99%.
Ooh, again with the fucking meaningless percentages.
Must be 100% agreement with absolutely everything that the party line is saying that you have to agree with, whereas the right's like, you're most of the way there, come on over.
Like, I mean, this is just made up. This is just complete nonsense.
So, yeah, I mean, it just seems so obvious to me about why you get this slide to the right. I mean,
yeah, it couldn't possibly be anything to do with the fucking oodles of money that you get thrown at you.
Even you talking...
Like, there was a $50 million contract for Steven Crowder. And he turned that shit down because he thought he could get a better deal.
Donald Trump Jr. talking to Elon Musk. Like, that doesn't happen in reverse. It doesn't...
What do you mean? What in reverse? Like, you think Elon Musk doesn't talk to Donald Trump Jr.? It seems like maybe they're both talking.
It doesn't happen the other way around.
Oh, well, that's definitely true.
What doesn't happen the other way around? What is so inspiring and special about two ruling class ghouls who are both fucking reactionary white supremacist assholes talking to each other?
I mean, because as you were saying, I was laughing inside at the idea of Kamala Harris saying to Charlie Kirk, "Oh, that's an interesting idea."
I have absolutely no trouble seeing that. In fact, it is trivial to find pictures of top Democrats palling around with the Trumps.
What other suggestions do you have, Charlie?
Like, I mean, she literally did that. Her campaign was all based around, like, the Trump refugee murder policy on the border. Like, she literally campaigned on that, on basically taking all of her suggestions from the far right. And then she fucking lost, Cenk. She got her ass kicked because nobody wants that shit.
I mean, come on. Yeah, that's never, ever gonna happen. I mean,
it's happened already.
That's never. She's never gonna say that to me.
Yeah, that's because. Well, why would anyone say that to you? You will say all you have to do is get patted on the head by somebody with power, and you'll come out in reverse.
Let alone Charlie Kirk, right? Let alone anyone on the right. And so, and that's because again,
she surrounded herself with people on the right. She campaigned with fucking Dick Cheney, for fuck's sake.
That's not the left-right thing. That's the populist establishment thing.
No, it isn't.
Because the people in the establishment think that the people that are populist are dirt, and they think that they're not in the elites. Why would I listen to them, right? So like they find the idea,
uneducated masses.
Yeah, and they find the idea of taking advice from us just laughable.
Yeah, the unwashed man. You went to fucking Wharton. You're not the unwashed masses. Shut the fuck up.
You know, you just laughed.
You have a major media company.
Laughed out loud at their intransigence, and they would laugh at the idea. What would we learn from Charlie Kirk or Cenk?
Except, I mean, Cenk. Now, I just can't help thinking that since Cenk is a guy whose big media company does have news programming on it, that maybe he might have noticed that the Democrats had a little bit of a presidential campaign recently where all they were doing was like foregrounding right-wing ideas.
They laugh and laugh and laugh. And that's why sometimes I'll get into a conversation with somebody who's an establishment Democrat, and
you motherfucker, you are an establishment Democrat, and it's hard not to notice that you're making the exact same move that all these other establishment Democrats are making. Like, he did the fuck trans people thing, and what do you know? Democrats campaigned on fuck trans people.
They're talking down at me like almost every time. I've barely ever had a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're supposed to fucking Elon Musk isn't the elite. What elite is this? Donald Trump Jr. isn't the elite?
Conversation with anyone who's an establishment Democrat where they weren't doing this, looking down their nose at me the entire time, right? Like,
well, maybe that's because you're a schmuck.
Who the fuck do you think?
It's a highly unlikable party. It's a highly unlikable group.
Yeah, you know, as opposed to the people who want to kill trans people and celebrate when cops murder black people. I mean, those people, they're so likable. That's the thing. That's the famous thing about Elon Musk too. He's so likable. Everybody just loves that guy.
Iran.
Yeah. So look, from their perspective, they would say, "Well, how about you guys? You guys keep attacking Muslims and transgender people and gay people." And
well, yeah, which kind of matters. Like, you're talking about like uniting with people. This is the 5% disagreement that he's talking about. Except he doesn't disagree on these things.
Black people, etc. From their point of view, I know a lot of you.
Not from their point of view. In actuality, like the people that he's like talking about how welcoming they are have been celebrating the fact that the Subway Strangler Daniel Penny got off scot-free. They made Kyle Schittentraus into some sort of a minor fucking celebrity because he was the first Nazi mass shooter to get away with it completely.
The right wing would disagree, right?
But no, they wouldn't. They don't disagree with this. This is their position. They're open about it.
As someone who is as close to neutral as it gets in terms of at least the populist end, no, the right wing does attack those people. And maybe not to the degree that The View says, and maybe...
Yeah, like, to probably, almost certainly a much greater degree than The View says, I would say.
Maybe not in the same way that The View says.
I don't know what way The View says, but I do know...
But are there attacks? Are there actual bills passed, etc.? Yes, definitely. Okay? So both sides have reasons to distrust each other. But
see, the right wing is so welcoming unless you're, what was that list? Muslim, LGBT, black.
But what I'm saying about the establishment Democrats is that they don't just distrust the right. They distrust
They don't distrust the right, in fact. They're part of the right. They're actually quite cool with the right. They are much... I mean, they work with... Like, what sign is there that they distrust the right? Like, they have been handing Trump massive surveillance and censorship powers this time out. Like, I mean, in this fucking Lakin Riley bill, Jesus Christ. They're giving, the power to just throw non-citizens in the camps if they're accused, not even convicted, of petty crime. Like, is that a sign of distrust to you, Cenk?
Populace that are on their side, too. Because they're elitist by nature. And by the way...
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that all these billionaires who are patting him on the head aren't, is elitist.
Hey, that also is true of Republicans, but why I give the populist right credit is because they led a rebellion and a successful
No, they didn't.
rebellion.
No, they really didn't, though.
Against establishment Republicans.
Well, you got to give credit. You got to give credit to like the PNF because they led that march on Rome, and that was really, really cool. That was a great thing they did. Like, say what you want about Hitler, but he did that beer hall putsch. Listen to this guy.
So if I tell a Democrat Mitch McConnell is a piece of shit who took $1 billion from corporate donors and does anything a corporate donor asks him to do,
Democrats would say, but those are the things we like about him.
They'll say, oh, of course that's true. Yeah, Mitch McConnell's the worst. If I say Nancy Pelosi did the same thing, they're like, oh, how dare you? She's an angel. When she took the same $1 billion, she did it for our well-being. I'm like,
yeah, and the person you were talking to would, in fact, probably not even be wrong about that. It was for their well-being, not for everybody's well-being.
Did she? Because I could show you all of her staffers that worked at health.
Like, okay, so the idea is that, the Democrats are bent, so therefore you should go over to fucking Elon Musk because he's not? Like, literally, he's making... Like, if the Democrats are bent, and that's an objection you have to them, and I can understand that, it's a reasonable objection to have. Like, then why are you going over to these motherfuckers? They're as bent as a dish licker's hind leg.
Insurance companies and drug companies, and then all of a sudden we can't negotiate drug prices. And and I can go on and on and on, right?
Yeah, they all suck. That's why you probably shouldn't be like trying to align yourself with any of them. Like most people don't like any of them.
But on the other hand, so now when in the old past, when I talk to Republicans, they would say the same thing, like, "Oh, how dare you? Mitch McConnell is the beloved Mitch McConnell who has given us everything we want, including the giant corporate tax cuts we wanted." Well, now when I talk to right-wing populists, they're like, "Yeah, fuck Mitch McConnell." I'm like, oh.
Well, yeah, and if you ask them why, they'll say they'll eventually get into saying something pretty anti-Semitic, almost certainly.
We're making ground.
Yeah, that's right. You know
what a smarmy motherfucker this interviewer is. I've never heard modern wisdom. What the hell is that?
I have to agree with me on the policy, but
it would really be nice if you actually got specific on the policy instead of like talking about your bullshit percentages.
The bare minimum that we all have to get on the same team on is, and by the way, the right's not completely on this team yet. Okay.
Oh, I'm curious. Okay, chat. What do you think? What team is he? What team are they almost on?
Which is that the donors control everything.
Well, I mean, they are on the team of liking that. They're cool with that.
The politicians serve their donors. That's why they do talking points. They're empty shells. They're almost all crooks. And whatever donors...
See, the difference is that when you see, like, on the far right, you get a fair bit of this. But if you start to ask them to get a little bit more specific, suddenly it turns out it's something to do with the Jews.
Money is given to them. They serve that money 100%.
Does that mean if the donors are so important, and I've heard this, I had Dean Phillips on the show at the start of the year, and I was digging deep into just how much time is spent fundraising and having to schmooze at cocktail hours and so on and so forth. It's like way more time than you spend actually legislating or doing your fucking job. Is there something different now about Elon being a large contributor, financially, strategically, etc., operationally, but being out front, being owning it, being like, hey, I'm here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's because Elon Musk likes to just sort of flex his nuts. That's Elon Musk's thing. And the thing is, he's in the fucking nut flexing party. He's in the party where all the, like, this is like, you own your grift. They like shameless grifters. And, Elon Musk is nothing if not both shameless and a grifter.
On stage, does that add an amount of transparency, legitimacy, scrutiny to him?
No, it doesn't. I mean, like, literally everybody on there would fucking suck him off if he asked him to. Like, the reason that he's on the stage is because the people who like Trump overwhelmingly are people who think Elon Musk is the coolest shit ever, because Elon Musk got his money from slave labor in an apartheid emerald mine.
Gives you a sense of confidence?
And hates trans people.
Not yet, no. Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
okay, and so proof's always in the pudding. And so, look.
You understand the structure of what I'm saying here, though, right?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nonsense. It made no sense.
So let me address it in a couple of ways. So first of all, does Trump serve the donors? Sorry, guys, but definitely yes.
No shit.
So Sheldon Adelson gave him $100 million in 2016, and then another $100 million in 2020 in campaign contributions through the PACs. And then Miriam Adelson, his wife, he's now passed away, gave him $137 million in this cycle. So that's over $330 million that the Adelsons, let's be honest, bribed Donald Trump. Okay.
Well, yeah, no shit.
It's a legal bribe, and yes, the Democrats definitely do it as well. Both sides.
Oh well, in fact, I mean, actually, these past few campaigns, the Democrats have been getting way more of this money.
Is claiming only the other side does it.
No, I mean, for a simple, it's not because and the reason it seems quite simple to me, namely that the Democrats actually tend to be more divisive. They divide the forces that actually oppose the ruling class because they manage to calm down the liberals, and liberals will make excuses for them or even not even notice the stuff they're doing, make a concerted effort not to notice that they're doing the same shit that pissed them off when Republicans were doing it. The Democrats are sort of the party of stability, of like preserving the regime, and the Republicans are the party of, on the one hand, they sort of unite most of the population against them. Like and everybody freaks out because they're quite open about what they want to do. They don't like obfuscate it. They just go out right and say that they're going to do some racism, and they just fucking add like a Kid Rock soundtrack to the shit.
Is insanity, not remotely true. So what did Donald Trump do for the Adelsons? He moved our embassy because Sheldon asked him to. One of the upsides of Trump is that he can't help himself. He just says whatever's at the top of his mind, and that gives us a sense of authenticity. But the downside is he does confession after confession. And so,
wait, how's that the downside? I mean, the fact that he says the quiet part out loud and leaves very little ability to, very little room for denial.
So
is surely, if anything, one of the few decent qualities he has. Not one that is particularly helpful to him, I would say, but it is useful because it makes it really easy to expose him because he's constantly exposing himself.
Okay, yeah, Sheldon gave me a lot of money, so I moved the embassy. No, you're not supposed to give away foreign policy to a donor. Sorry. And then he gave Miriam Adelson the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
For what, brother? Come on.
Yeah, well, like, you could say that of, like, practically every fucking recipient. Like, Bono got it. What the fuck has Bono done? I mean, I have to say, like, the one thing you can say for the man is that I hadn't heard anything about him in over a year. And so maybe that is, like, such a service to humanity that he was entitled to a little reward. Like, Hillary Clinton got it.
Come on, for what? That's like our highest honor, and you're giving it to.
Well, yeah, but look at who else gets it. Is it really an honor though? Look at it's like lots of just complete assholes get it.
Donor's wife. So now, what's important is not the past, but right now. So he appointed 4 people that are Team Miriam. Marco Rubio at State, Elise Stefanik as UN Ambassador, Mike Huckabee as Ambassador to Israel, and Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. All 4 of those are neocons. They're war hawks, and they want more war, not less war. That is not what the base voted for.
Yeah, the base is actually... What do you mean that's not what the base voted for? If you actually look at, again, you look at the fucking polling. You know, you have all these people who, having done this, I am speaking from my own experience here, because I used to do this a long time ago. I mean, people who suffer through phoning up all these fucking people, disturbing them at dinner, getting verbally abused for it, all to ask them questions that we then can use to analyze where these people stand. Like, look at them. The people who voted for Trump aren't anti-war. They're actually kind of cool with war. They're particularly cool with the genocide going on in Palestine right now. They're not against that. The fact that, Trump was able to continue the various wars, and that didn't actually hurt him. Like, fucking Richard Spencer got pissed off, but, it didn't really put a huge dent in his support.
That is Team Israel versus Team America.
There is no versus. Israel is, like, just sort of the U.S.'s prehensile genital. There is, like, literally, you cannot separate Israeli capital from U.S. capital. They are so totally commingled. Israel is just the 51st state. It is utterly dependent on the U.S., and it does what the U.S. wants. And when the U.S. says it doesn't want them to do something that they've been doing, they stop doing it.
Keeping it real. And by the way, I say the same exact things about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They totally sold us out. Because AIPAC gave over
sold who out though?
$11 to Joe Biden throughout his career. It's his #1 donor. They've given different groups have given over $10 million now, $5 million from AIPAC, $6 million from J Street to Kamala Harris. That's why they were willing to lose Michigan and the entire election rather than defy their donors.
Well, no, it's a little bit more than that in that particular case, because the thing is, the one area that is really stable in the U.S. is imperial policy, so-called foreign policy. And Israel, the thing is, Israel's irreplaceable for the U.S. There is no other platform for U.S. power projection in the Middle East, in the Arab-Iranian region, than Israel. Nothing. There's nothing that is remotely as stable. Because literally every other U.S. client state in the region has a population that overwhelmingly hates the U.S. for good reason. Because the U.S. doesn't do very nice things to the people in the region. So people are pissed off at them. So they live under these U.S. bankrolled dictatorships. And if, democracy ever showed up in these countries, the U.S. would be very worried. But that's not the case with Israel. In the case of Israel, the overwhelming majority of the settler population is extremely pro-U.S. In fact, quite a few of them are U.S. citizens. They're as pro-U.S. as they come. They're not, like, there is an actual, like, popular base for U.S. imperial power projection there that does not have to be just entirely manufacture. It does not depend on completely suppressing the population. It is actually just the organic sentiment in the settler population for understandable reasons. The reasons are as understandable as the reasons that the overwhelming majority of the population elsewhere in the region can't stand the U.S. and wants to see the U.S. kicked out of the region. Like, so it's not fundamentally just like AIPAC and shit like that. AIPAC, these like Israel lobby groups have nowhere near the resources that the biggest beneficiaries of U.S. Mideast policy have, which is oil and gas and fucking and arms. Those two industries are like the main beneficiaries, and they could buy and sell AIPAC. If they didn't like AIPAC, they could buy him up and shut him down immediately. AIPAC and J Street are just an easier way to make propaganda for what the U.S. does in the region, rather than just saying, yeah, this is for the benefit of the oil and gas and arms industries. But it is time to wrap up. Thank you to everyone who has joined in. It's always good to see you all. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and please consider supporting my Patreon or making a one-off contribution. I'm going to drop some links in chat. And it would be a big help for me, and it would also support the Ines Armand translation project. But in any case, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will see you again Friday, 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern